right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Remember, you can go over and follow us. Today is going to be a super short show. This, again, is because there is a lot of fluff out there as far as news goes, so we wanted to make sure we utilized your time the best, as well as this is a great show. If you were to share our show with anybody, friends and family, this is a much better show to share than a 2-hour show that they may not have time to watch. So we're going to talk about three of kind of the main stories that we wanted to point out. And we actually have a fourth one that was just added right before the show. So let's first off just explain you can find a full bibliography for today's show and any show that we do over on marfooglenews.com. That actually has every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to share here today. And any video that we might be pointing you to will be right there. When you click on today's thumbnail, Solar Events, Solar Cycle 25, Flare After Flare, you will see it brings you to the page with all of the sources. On top of that, there are, of course, the tweets that today are very important for you to go watch. These are tweets we can't show you here. So, again, you definitely want to go over there and pop over and check that out. So let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam. Hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So I just want to point out, so there's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot of news, but there's not a lot of news. I mean, I'm honestly, I did not want to do a show going over. I mean, if you look at this, it's just crazy how they will fill a news cycle with absolutely nothing. Talking about, I mean, they'll literally say, somebody rang a doorbell and ran away and because it's somebody who was in a movie 10 years ago, that's important. I mean, like, that's not news. As far as there are some important things, and we're going to talk about those. The Russian security agents have been using a secret network of corrupted computers to spy on NATO for decades, but the U.S. just busted it open, feds say. So this is, I mean, Dex, what the heck is this? Like, so they've had kind of an in for decades and they just discovered it?
Yeah, it sounds to me like it was a network of computers, and they're saying it was the sophisticated malware known as Snake. And it was a global network of computers. And a lot of times the way these work is they're kind of like, not like really bots, but they're these, they take over computers out there from the malware, and they leverage, thousands or even hundreds of thousands of computers across the internet from people that don't realize their computers has been susceptible to this attack, and their computers being consumed by, a small percentage of it's being used by these systems. So it appears that's, they didn't go into a lot of detail on the technical side of it, but it appears to be that this tool they were using called Snake was being used by them for a long time, and it had been a platform that had been out there, and I guess they just, I don't know if it's that they discovered it or they found a way to disable it, but the fact that this has been used, they're claiming has been used by Russia to spy against NATO for decades, and now they just busted it open. So I'm kind of shocked that it's taken them this long. I don't know if it's just taking them this long to discover it or taking them this long to figure out how to shut it down. But you would think if you've been spied on for decades, you would catch it at some point.
Of course, I feel like Metal Gear Solid popped up in my head, like Snake. It's really, it's known as Snake. The Justice Department said in a statement, to do this, the agency carried out a court-authorized operation to disable Snake on compromised computers by using a tool that instructed the malware to destroy itself. What's crazy is like they call stuff like this Snake. Like it says, for nearly 2 decades, a unit within Russia's Federal Security Service, or FSB, successor to the Soviet-era KGB, has used Snake to target and steal sensitive documents from computer systems in dozens of countries across the world, including NATO members, the Justice Department said. How did something like this stick around for decades? That just does not make sense to me. If it wasn't somehow somebody was, turning away from this or, blind eye, I don't understand this at all. It's very confusing to me. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that this is fishy or if there's anything weird about it, because I would love to hear some of your opinions, especially all of the military folks here. By the way, I just want to say a special thank you to everybody this week, but including Pat W. Thank you, and thank you for, of course, the triple back-to-back super stickers. Thank you. Says thumbs up, fam. Pat W., thank you for the super chats, and thank you for supporting Independent. I appreciate all of you guys that have made it here. Now, I also did not get a chance because it was when we were not live. But thank you for the few people that joined the members. Miss Dragon, thank you, and thank you. Stanley Barrick, Craig Alicious, thank you for becoming a Marfoogle member. And then John Frederick, and looks like Mitchell Wintrow and Kay Parker Fraser, Main Watcher. That's a new one as well. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you for doing that. And then U.S.-Mexico border, there was heavy gunfire on Key Bridge with reports of casualties. There's a lot of really, really crazy chatter going on around the border, obviously because this whole 42 thing ending, and now there's a lot being said about this. In fact, Dex, did we not just hear that our president is going to do some of the things that our former president was doing and that he was actually criticizing? Now we're seeing the same thing apparently, or we're going to.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we'll talk about that in the overflow. But yeah, he basically is trying to put in the order, an executive order, now that 42 is coming up, and it's this pretty much the same tactic that T-Man used to do deportations quickly, and he got I guess shunned for it, and then it even went to court and went through a legal battle, and now they're going to say they're going to do the same thing to Biden as well. So if that goes through, so all eyes right now at a domestic level are looking down south, because all of this is sort of heated up. Everything from the events over the weekend that we talked about to this event today. I mean, having this type of eruption happen right on the bridge, that's kind of not necessarily what the status quo is down there. I'm sure there are other people say, yeah, we hear gunfire all the time, but this sounded like, and it was pretty big. It sounded like it's escalating, and I think we're probably starting to see a new, new tactics and new responses, probably from our own side as well as the cartel side. There's a lot of money to be made, both in the human portion of this as well as the narcotic portion of this that comes across our border, and all of that is coming from the cartels. And it's almost as if we, have our own version of a conflict right down there. And I know there's many people that look at it that way. And I know our the politicization of it is not one that they ever want to address it that way. But certainly I know a lot of people in our audience and a lot of other people look at that and say, it almost feels like we have our own conflict down there, given what's happening at the border.
Well, what's even crazier is about a week ago, I want to say like probably 9 days ago, I got sent a clip, and it was actually of AJ. And obviously AJ is like not anywhere except for his own platform. And he was saying that he got some different emails. And then a couple days ago, he reiterated that. And he said that he talked to some high ranking people, and they said that there was going to be all sorts of different events go down in Texas, as far as at the border and here. So it's kind of crazy that we're actually seeing one of the first kind of days in this of this is this kind of thing erupting. Now, a lot of people have questions of the validity of all sorts of things that are going on down there, because obviously there's motive to kind of make this look good for our administration, or any administration, for that matter. If any administration is going to run, and this is a huge issue, they're going to try to spin this to make this look better than it is. At the same time, we know, and we've been talking about this for months, when the 42 ended, there were going to be hundreds of thousands trying to get over and to come over in whatever way possible. This is not just folks from Mexico. This is folks from a ton of the countries that are our actual adversaries. And I'm absolutely sure of it. I believe you could, if you took the statistics of this, that there are some people that are in cells that are trying to come through here that are from countries that have threatened to do extreme damage to our country. And I'm sure one of these people, at least, and, it'd be probably safe to say dozens, if not hundreds, possibly even thousands, are going to be from countries, and they're going to be sleeper cells. They said at one point that what was it, Dex? Every 1 out of 100 people that came over from, the I country, Iran to the store, ended up being sleeper cells, or were going to be, and that was just during normal times. It was Iran, right?
Yeah, it was a number like that, and it was from that crossing illegally. Was the statistic. So of the numbers that came across that were from that country that were, coming across not through normal means, then it was a high percentage that they had claimed they were in sleepers.
And that was just during normal times where it was raised up, and I think it was a huge number back then, but it wasn't the craziness that is going on right now. And that's just from one country. Think about the different people that may have come from all over the world, from our adversarial countries, hermit countries, crazy countries that do horrible, horrible things to people. And those folks are trying to kind of hitch a ride on the bandwagon right inside with everybody else. So this is when people really need to be aware of their surroundings as far as all of the crazy events that the media covers. There's most likely going to be more of those. And people were not buying some of the stories that have been put out. They weren't catching what the media was throwing on some of the previous Texas stuff, Texas events. So I would highly recommend going back to our video of how to deal with mass events, because you may get stuck in the middle of one of these fantastic Freddies. There's, one of the things to know is and by the way, because all of this is happening, there is a chance of real events happening. So if you are in Texas, or if you're anywhere along this area, you should have a basic thought in your head, like, hey, if I go into a store or something, always know where your exits are, always think about it. And anybody who is trained military, they'll go into a place and it's just, they've made it habit to always look for exits, to always look for something that they could possibly get behind, use for some sort of defense. And who knows though? I mean, there's a few thousand people watching this. Maybe one person will find this information good. And we actually put out a video with experts, kind of information of how to deal with a situation like that. And it won't just only be something like that. It could be something like, car going up on the sidewalk or something crazy. If, at the very least, if you do believe that those are, put together and orchestrated, just realize that real people get caught in the middle of those things all the time. So pay attention to your surroundings right now. And then also, this is a good time to have everybody have a basic plan. If there was some things if there were people coming over from either Russia or from another country that believe we are actually at war with them, then this would be the time right now, especially when all of these folks are going to be coming in forcefully. And then, this is nuts. A shareholder arrested during a presentation of a proposal at Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. So we'll talk about this in just a second. Dex, did you want to comment on that last piece?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have covered numerous times, and there's been a lot of conversations about the people from China, or nationals from there, coming across. Okay. And then the other thing we have to pay attention to is where some of the groups coming from, especially the large organized groups. I think one of them recently said there was 80,000 heading up from one of the lower countries. And they said a lot of the people were made up from Venezuela. Nothing against Venezuelans, but pay attention to which countries are aligning with our adversaries. And, keep in mind, could that be used, like you were saying, is it a means for an adversarial way to bring people in undercover, under the guise of, immigration?
To be frank, I mean, this isn't a good thing right now. There's going to be a surge of people that is probably going to be equivalent to, weeks of crossings. So it's something that people, especially down in the South, need to pay attention to. It's not, you shouldn't walk around afraid, but you should be aware of your surroundings. This is something that all of us try to train ourselves as far as, just being aware. knowing where you are, knowing your exits, knowing people watching just in general. It's crazy that we have to do that, but look at the world we're living in right now. The people above us just absolutely don't care about the regular people. They don't. Our representatives that wear $12,000 suits and dresses, they don't care about us. They just care about their next huge bankrolled paycheck from some company. I mean, that's the truth. And when it really comes down to it, we have to look out for each other. So I'm sure during any of these future events, and there will be, I mean, they happen all the time now, and they're going to happen more. And even if you think they're Fantastic Freddy's, they're still going to be put out in the news, and the results from those events are going to happen. So say if a really big event happens, then they start changing laws, they start restricting rights, they start taking away privileges that anybody in the United States or even Europe. I mean, look at Europe. Europe's changed many things after smaller events. And it's not to belittle some of the crazy events that have happened in Europe, but a couple of them, I guess, 5 or 6 lives all of a sudden changes lives of hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people when they start changing laws and rights. I mean, that's just nuts. Bad things are going to happen all the time. And one thing that, we have to all realize is this stuff happens. And what's more important, your safety or your rights? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then shareholder arrested during this presentation of a proposal at the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting. So this is something that obviously I don't know whose video this is, but essentially one of the bigger shareholders, somebody who actually has a good enough chunk of Berkshire Hathaway that is enough of a chunk so he is allowed to speak at the annual shareholder meeting, ended up getting up there, and they almost stopped him for a second when he started going down the road of the current politics and what everybody's talking about and arguing about right now. But then he continued to go on, and he started saying some pretty crazy stuff. In most of our eyes, it's not crazy at all. But they actually took him out and forcibly removed him from the arena. He got up essentially saying that Mr. Gilley, he definitely loves the kids and goes to EpiPen's Island. It says Flaherty is the chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center, the NLPC, which was the sponsor of the proposal. It says number 8, to require hereafter that two separate people hold the office of chairman and the office of the CEO. In support of this resolution for an independent chair, Flaherty attempted to assert that Berkshire would be less identified with Mr. Buffett's personal political activities, and cited Buffett's support for the bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, among other factors. He essentially talked about how basically, we get funding from all over the place, but Mr. Buffett is a giant chunk of it. Essentially, the guy is controlling. So as far as it actually sounds like a pretty good proposal to require 2 separate people hold office of chairman and the office of the CEO. I'm surprised more companies and organizations don't do that. With all of the crazy stuff we have seen in the last few years, that's actually sounds like a pretty good idea, or at least I can think of it being a good idea for some other companies. Resolution proponents were allowed 3 minutes each to speak in support of their proposals. 3 other proponents spoke before Flaherty without interruption, including Michael Fredericks, treasurer of Illinois. The video of the event shows at 1:08 into his remarks, Flaherty approached and interrupted at the microphone. It was by Kathy Willems, a Berkshire official who was designated liaison with proponents for the meeting. Not audible through the sound system, Willems told Flaherty that he should stay, quote, on topic. That's when he started talking about men and women and what is going on. And it says Flaherty stated into the microphone, he says, "You are not going to censor what I say, ma'am. I'm very sorry, and I appeal to the chair that I will be allowed to continue, sir." And then Buffett stated, "You may continue, but under the 3-minute limitation." Flaherty replied, "Of course," and resumed speaking at the 1:28 mark. And basically, he just goes right into it. Right then, he ended up talking about Gates and his relationship with EpiPen. So you can go watch the video for yourself. I shared it with a few people, and they said, oh, I watched so much longer afterwards. Just watch the 3-minute speech, and then essentially after that, it's other speakers, and somebody posted the kind of video in full. One thing I think is, like, people are starting to speak out, and it even, very high up people are starting to really kind of push back against some of the craziness right now. What do you think about what he said? Watch the video and then let me know what you think. Dex, did you watch his comments on the actual video?
Yes, I did. And it was, he didn't make it very far after the second attempt, and they shut him down. It was funny is to listen to the audience. The video's on our website, guys. So if you're looking for it, just go to the show notes link down below in the description. You'll see it. It's right there. It's an embedded tweet.
You want to hear drones?
You can watch just the short portion of it.
You want to hear drones? Is that audience booing him the second that he said that stuff about Bill and Jeff? The second he said that, what was their response?
Well, yeah, it was. I thought it was mixed. I was trying to listen, and I saw some people like more gasping, like, oh my gosh, somebody actually said it, and then other people were like, boo, 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 right? So yeah, it was interesting, but I thought it was interesting to listen to the audience, because you could try to pick up, that there was obviously a couple of different sides in that room, or some shocked people that maybe didn't want to cheer, but try to find some other way to make noise, but wasn't really cheering. And maybe that's just my own personal interpretation of what I was hearing. There definitely were boos there, but yeah. And then the second time, as he got back into it, that's when he went hard and heavy, and they just shut him down and arrested him. I mean, the guy got arrested for it. So shareholder with a bill, a proposal for it, not a bill, but a sponsor of a proposal for the company, speaking, goes down this path of a topic, gets not just the mic cut off, but gets arrested.
Well, that tells you the police that were there were I guarantee you they paid those police a direct fee, right? And I don't know if they were, because he was physically arrested. He's not going to get any charges, I assume. He might be trespassed from whatever building he was in, but how would he even do? He didn't do anything illegal. He was speaking. And for them to arrest it just shows you that how much power these rich people probably had, a very personal force there. They probably had the police, that they knew and that they hired. Obviously, you can hire cops, but that doesn't mean, say if you pay a cop to stand in your store all day, you can't be like, hey, arrest this guy. They still have to follow the law. They can't just arrest people for that. But again, I don't know how this guy might even have a lawsuit or something, because that's screwed up.
Yeah, they told him that he had to leave. And he said, I'll leave when I'm done speaking, because he had been given from the chair, Buffett, the opportunity to keep talking. And he was under the impression he still had time. He hadn't hit his 3-minute mark, and they were stopping him. And he's like, I'm not going to stop until I'm done speaking. I have my 3 minutes. I'm allowed to speak. And that's when they.
And he didn't say stay on topic. He just said stay in the limitation. So he is correct. I bet the guy, he could I don't know, maybe he can get some sort of civil case. Either way, there were some people that were like, woohoo! And then the funny thing is after he got stepped down, you can't tell if they're clapping for taking him down because he's saying such horrible things, or if they're clapping and overdoing the boos of the people that started talking trash. This is important. We've been following all of the weird little things that have been coming out with Poland, and it's Kremlin calls Polish decision to rename Kaliningrad a hostile act. No, most people are rolling their eyes like, okay, they're renaming it. The fact is, they actually are very pissed. And Russians in general, if you start having other countries rename places to undo anything Russian, it's causing some major rife between people. Even the regular people in Russia are very pissed off about this, and they're basically saying, screw you, Poland. It says the Kremlin said on Wednesday that Poland's decision to rename the Russian city of Kaliningrad in its official documents was, quote, a hostile act, as ties continue to fray over the UK conflict. I think this is a setup. Poland is going to be one of the first. With China, Japan is going to be one of the first in that conflict to really go live. And then Poland, Romania, I think Poland, out of all of them, will most likely be the first, along with Finland. Obviously, they're on the border, but Poland has done the most as far as all of the different events that have happened, from them setting up their anti-tank, from all of the politics that they've been doing, from holding President JB in Warsaw, having that weird stuff go down where they've basically decorated their whole capital like UKR, from that, that train trip, the unexpected trip. I mean, our prez went there and did that big old speech in support of UKR. Something went down there because they just keep pushing. They keep doing stuff. Obviously, the missile happened in Poland, the missile that went down into their land and just happened to hit out of everywhere, hit a freaking tractor in the middle of open area. I mean, it's crazy. Meanwhile, they'll send 80 missiles and not hit a single person. That one missile ended up hitting, and then that whole thing was shady. UKR denied that it was theirs. Russia said that they denied it was theirs. And that could have even been a cover-up to prevent World War III. I don't know. But whatever's happening there, Poland is definitely... there's all sorts of push for Poland to have beef with Russia. And then northern lights could be visible in parts of the U.S. Wednesday due to the geomagnetic storm. Now, we were actually going to have a video from Wages World. Wages World is not just a mod. In fact, before he was our mod, he's a huge YouTuber as well, and he's actually a friend of mine, and he literally helps out because he's just that kind of guy. But he has a great channel, and he covers all of the solar events. And we've actually attached over on marfooglenews.com a great video that he did last on these huge solar events. The sun blasts Earth with radiation. This is on our website. You can actually go and watch the full show there. But it's Sunday solar flare means auroras could be visible in parts of the U.S. and Canada on Wednesday, officials said. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Space Weather Prediction Center raised geomagnetic storm watches for Wednesday and Thursday. The solar flare was associated with a partial coronal mass ejection, which is a large expulsion of plasma and magnetic field lines from the sun's corona. It says the outermost part of the atmosphere, if the CME arrives as anticipated, G2 or moderate storm, conditions are expected Wednesday for G1 or with minor conditions Thursday. It says that a geomagnetic activity is most likely to make a northern lights visible. According to NOAA, the aurora may be visible in the northern tier of the U.S. One thing I want to point out is actually there were several back-to-back, and they just keep pummeling. This is solar cycle 25. So we've actually talked about this for years. People have anticipated this because this is a cycle within a cycle. There are, of course, we're on number 25, but there's a ton of scientists that are actually switching over to a couple of scientists that have basically put out a lot of their papers on what they believe is going on, how they have read all of the different studies of our sun and what it has been doing. And there's actually a lot of people going over to the 11-year cycle, the 22-year cycle, which is kind of a combination of two cycles. Either way, solar cycle 25, out of the whatever 400 years that they've been watching this stuff, they look at the termination event, these events that happened towards the very end of a cycle, and they can tell if one of these solar cycles that are, what is it, Dex, from 10 to 13 years, isn't that right? And
yes.
If it ends up on the shorter scale, they basically look at the length of it, when the actual termination event is, and they see patterns within the pattern of how after this kind of solar cycle, the last one, there is essentially an extremely unpredictable solar cycle that is capable of gigantic flares. Now, we have not had a Carrington-level event since, over, what is it now? Dex, how many years has it been? It's been over 100 years, and we're basically overdue for one now. And the last one that happened essentially fried all of the telegraph wires. It actually, set headsets on fire. This was before we had all of the extremely sensitive stuff that we do today. A CME will hit Earth. It's just a matter of when, not if. and they have basically not done anything to overhaul, most of our infrastructure. They are working on hardening our grid here in the U.S., but other countries, they're really screwed. There's a lot of countries that are basically not doing anything to stop this. And from previous events, even as 2016, 2012, they know that these solar events are extremely unpredictable. They used to think that it would only affect basically the top half or above the equator of certain areas, and they wouldn't think it would affect down here if it happened here. Well, they have seen it basically be unpredictable every single time. And they had events going on down below. They had events happening on the other side. Essentially, when these big events hit, it's really, really dangerous. Now we're having more and more of these hit, and as solar cycle 25 continues, we're basically heading into extremely, extremely dangerous times. The very peak of this is now happening sooner. So along with all of the crazy kind of prophecies about 2024 and 2025, we are also hitting this peak during that time period. So this is something where people really need to start paying attention to it, or at least pay attention to it for the next, 6 or 7 years, because once this happens, the one thing is the first blast will hit us right away within like 8 minutes, or even quicker if it's going really fast. But within 3 days of that, you're basically going to need to be ready. If we really do have a Carrington level of event happen and knock out all of our stuff, you're going to have very little time to get your ducks in a row, if any at all. Once people understand what this is and what in the world? That was so random. I'm sorry, that was just so random. I just had like somebody dropped a huge freaking droplet of water. I don't know if you'll be able to see that in the replay, but just go right before I said that and just see what drops on my head. That is absolutely wild. Anyways, there's nothing above me.
Better than the spider, huh?
There's no leak. There's no nothing. That was just super weird. Anyways, sorry, I have ADD, and I'm sure most of anybody born during my time and drank our water or hose water did too. So anyways, when this ends up happening, this is going to be one of the biggest events we've ever seen. And what's so crazy is we're overdue for several of these gigantic disasters. I mean, it's sad. They say you're a pessimist if you pay attention to all this stuff, but look at all of the things that are lining up. There's chatter about everything. This is biblical. There's chatter about a financial collapse happening. There's chatter about de-dollarization. There's chatter of a nuclear tsunami. There's chatter of wars and rumors of wars. There is chatter right now of an asteroid hitting in just the next few years, 2029 or 2036. There's chatter of us, essentially going to Mars. And there's a lot of rumors of why. There's chatter about why we're having DART and HAMRA and all of these asteroid controlling kind of asteroid deflecting missions. There is rumors of course, a tsunami in the Cascadia subduction zone, which is overdue. In most of the averages, that is overdue. And there's rumors, of course, of Yellowstone. Yellowstone is probably on the lowest on my list. It may rate higher for other people. There's even talk about CERN destroying us through a black hole that it creates, which sounds crazy, but once you look into what CERN and other countries are actually doing, it gets a whole lot less crazy. Out of all these things, you could sit here and worry all day, or you could have a basic plan, and if you are meant to go, then you're meant to go. But if you're not, and there's something that you can prevent, if there's a death that can be preventable, or if there's even a inconvenience that's preventable, then that's something that you should be looking into. Dex, with the video on, and by the way, Wages had, he's a family man as well, so he had some issues, and he ended up getting stuck somewhere with his kids. So he didn't end up doing a special video for our channel. But do you want to talk about what was going on over there and and your opinion on this?
Yeah, basically, he said that we've got a sunspot that's causing these current waves that are hitting us. And the interesting thing is they're breaking what is called Hale's law, and he says that's pretty rare. It's only about 3% of the sunspots to do that actually do that. And the polarity is backwards, which causes it to be more complex and twice as likely to erupt. And multiple of those eruptions have been headed in our direction. So that's why. And he also said that he's thinking it's more of a G3, G4. I guess we'll find out as it actually gets closer. As opposed to the article, which I think said G2. But, everybody always has their predictions of what they think it's going to be, and they have the different models. And each model has some sort of different varying level of how intensive they think it will be when it actually hits, and then they'll know when it does hit.
Yeah, so as far as the G1, I think there was an update too. There were several. There were 2 back-to-back. And as far as before the other one even was going, another one hit. And we've been seeing this a lot lately. As far as there was a major radio blackout, I believe like 30 hours ago. And then, of course, if the really big one hits, it's going to be game over for most people. I mean, we'll be fine, but the infrastructure is totally going to be gone. That's why people need to have their ducks in a row. So let's see here. Thank you, by the way. Thank you over on DLive, everybody that is watching. Chance, thank you for modding, and thank you for the support. Scooby-Doo Right, Raise You One. Hey, Beer Juice and Scooby-Doo Right going back and forth as usual. Kishara, have you seen the YouTube vid by Charlie Chion? No, I have not. Now I'm my interest is piqued. I will have to go check that out. And then Pat W, thank you again. I appreciate that. Mitchell Wintro, hey, thank you. Hey, not only for being a member, but for the super chat. Thank you for the awesome show. Kenny Crowder says, good evening, Adam, Dex, Mods, and Foogle family. Stay safe, love your way. Well, thank you. Wait for it says, I like the Marfoogle. Well, thank you. I appreciate you, and thank you for liking us. And thanks, Steve-O, for following. And then Kelly ZC3CD, thank you, and thank you again. Did a super thanks on yesterday's show. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody that's been supporting our independent channel here. I appreciate you. Thank you, and thank you. Let's see, chat over here. Greetings from Johannesburg. Hey, Urban Farm Robin. Hey, I don't know if I would love to talk to some people that are in different places. Specifically, there was an event that happened in Johannesburg a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I wish I knew somebody there. Carol, Bobby Sue Fry, email me, Urban Farming Robin. And then Ron Sipple, feels like sleepwalking a nightmare. Well, that's the thing. We shouldn't be scared. Everybody should be kind of desensitized to the scary parts of this and should be more focused on what you can do to fix the problems, what you can do to prepare for these things. You can survive a solar flare. You can survive the infrastructure going down. That's the craziest part. That's the happy part. And who knows? People, if we really did lose everything, all of the internet, all of the devices, one, we might actually be healthier because all of the crazy stuff isn't flying around the frequencies. Two, we might turn into normal human beings, the human beings we were before we had social media, propaganda, and everything else. I guess some of us kind of subconsciously root for it, but obviously we don't want to see anybody hurt. So I would highly recommend people. Again, we have several different affiliates. You guys can obviously go check out Energy and Prep, but I highly recommend you guys go over and check out EMP Shield, because if you do want to protect yourself against that, this would be a good one to go and do. marfooglenews.com/EMP. You can wire it into your car or any other device, and it will protect it. It can also protect your home and your generators. Go over and check them out. You will not only get $50 off, but you'll be helping our channel as well. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot of other crazy stuff. This stuff not as crazy as this, so we're still going to go over it, and we'll just hit the headlines.
Absolutely. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or even easier, where all the links are, they're in the description down below. If you're looking for the affiliates, or the first link called show notes, it'll take you to this page. It'll get you right here. You can see the coverage we have. You can see Wages World video on there. You can see everything else. That video we talked about earlier from Berkshire annual shareholder meeting. That's all on the page. And then you'll get to this overflow section. This is where the rest of the story is. So, additional updates of what's been going on, the Ganda flowing around from UKR events are there. An update on the Chinese space plane. We talked about that landing yesterday. They're saying that maybe it docked with something a couple of times during its flight. That's up there. Interesting science thing for those of you that like the whole space stuff. They found some object that's like 10 million times as bright as the sun. And scientists are questioning why it hasn't exploded yet. That's kind of an odd question, but I guess, those astrophysicists have their ideas on why that stuff works. We do have updates on what's going on down south, some other things happening with Texas and its own National Guard and others heading down that direction. There's been some more updates with the whole Tucker Elon thing. So if you haven't heard, apparently he's going to be doing a show now. And I think, as we mentioned last night, even Elon said, hey, we don't have a contract. So I think it's free. He's not necessarily engaging in a commercial relationship around this. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Lots of other updates, some smaller stuff, some stuff going on with Oakley's that people thought were weird. Just the advertising, not as bad as, I don't think not as bad to them as, say, Bud Light, but definitely people were like, what are you doing here, Oakley? That's in the news. A continuation on the story we had covered with the U.S. Virgin Islands and their lawsuit and trying to subpoena someone who hasn't shown up or hasn't been able to be found. So that's there as well. All of that and so much more. It's down below. It's in that overflow section on our website when you click on the thumbnail for today's show. So go check it out, or that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right there.
One thing it's absolutely crazy is if they did not want Elon, they say that they're attacking Elon, right? But one thing I don't get is Elon, his SpaceX works for the government. Tesla has been doing backup batteries for the grid and is working with the government. And I'm sure they're doing Tesla, solar stuff or whatever the other stuff. I don't know if that's true or not, but as far as the grid stuff, that's supposedly been happening. And then, of course, Neuralink, they're probably doing stuff with the military. The Boring Company is working with local and federal governments on that whole Hyperloop thing. And now they just got a whole new contract. I don't understand. They say that they're attacking him. I just wonder, though, if this whole Tucker thing, they say absolutely crazy stuff over the next couple months, and then Twitter gets taken down, or some sort of restrictions. Now the government has a reason to, crush down and censor and come down on people because of what is being said. We are now coming into the months before everybody picks somebody, so it's going to get nuts. So everybody, it's going to be a ride up until after they pick whoever is going to rule us next, right? So I just don't. One thing I don't get, though, is they could just say, "Hey, we're going to do something else." I guess are they stuck? Is Elon the hero that he says he is, or is it part of it? What do you guys think? I sure am hoping that he is the hero that we think he is. The Twitter TV thing sounds awesome. If there's going to be some sort of video platform that isn't ruled by these censorship structures, if it's anything, close to any of the other platforms, I'm sure a lot of people are going to come. Like I said on Twitter, if you build it, they will come. Let's hear. Thank your mods, and make sure to show them how much you appreciate them by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends, and then make sure to go over and check out our other news channel for all of the short shareable content over there. Again, thank you, and thank you for everybody that popped in. Thank you, new members, Stephanie Munoz, Celtic Warrior, Wings and Wags, Patriot, J.R. Pale Horse, and thank you, John Frederick. I appreciate all of you guys that just joined, and thank you again, Main Watcher, Tamara Berry, Jammer1, You Are Soul, and of course, Ilea from yesterday, Ryan B, Holes Frijoles. Thank you guys, and I appreciate that. Again, that icon is going to change so that your badge will actually change over time, and then we're making the emojis. So there's going to be all of those are designed. We're going to be designing all of those. So all of the badges we're going to try to make some cool artwork. So thank you guys for supporting us, and I appreciate you. Dex, thank you for your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And tomorrow and Friday are going to be call-ins. So they're going to be longer shows. They're going to be jam-packed. And if you have been waiting to call all week, then make sure to tune in tomorrow or Friday. Call in at 224-400-MARF. Again, we'll see you guys in a little bit. Have a good night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. Solar flare, and it's running unaware of what is coming. Solar flare, and it's running unaware of what is coming. Have a good night, guys. Thank you so much for all of the support. Thank you so much, Pat W. I say hi, Susan on the beat, I ride. Rob Mills in the arm and a hot high. Come off a tracker, then this and Brian, Steven, and a Steve the Win. Rick Will I, private vendor, private pedantic. Everybody, let's not panic. I'm away, are you? Brian Knight and Rachel Queen. What have we seen? Wow, that's me. Don't cause a scene. I said, wow, that was quick. It was a negatory. I'm Marf on the OO and Mr. Nice Story. It's a nice story. Mr. Nice Guy, Alexander, and the nice wife. Why do we do what we do? Ian DeBoo. Just kidding, it's Ian DeBoo. Anastasia, Roman North, Kaneko, Perfection in the Baron Saturday. Hello, a Carol, a Schaefer girl, and Mr. Era, a David Bentley. Katie Cleans and Life sent me from Tennessee, and the Willie Hunt, everybody is bending the rules. Brian Knight, Ziggy Zaw, wanna get unified. Hey, with the Lydia English. What rhymes with English? A wages world, and a war in Thistle. A light North Korea missiles. It's gonna